Good evening, Rabbi. We're going to talk tonight about a very important topic. Now the holiday, impending holiday coming up, Pesach. We have to talk about more practical things, you know? We have to forget about all these fears and all these phobias, that all kinds of things going on. We have to rise above it. So we have to talk about Pesach. Now, one of my friends asked me actually about how to do the Haggadah of Pesach properly, you know? Step by step, how to arrange it properly, how to say it properly, all kinds of things. So I said, you know what? The best thing to do is I'll make a class about it, and this way, we'll guide people step by step how to do the Haggadah. Because the truth is, right, that the poskim say, the rabbis, the chachamim, they say, the most important mitzvah of Pesach is the Haggadah, right? Why is that? Because it says in the pasuk, it says in the verse in the Torah, "V'igata lebincha." It says, right? What does that mean? It commands you. You must tell over to your son the Pesach Haggada. You know, the story of Pesach, the Exodus. You have to tell them the story. This is the idea, you know. So therefore, what we do is we every year we get together as a family, all our family members, siblings, all kinds of things like this. Whoever we have in our immediate surroundings. There's also a mitzvah, by the way. You should know that just besides having your immediate family, it's a mitzvah to invite people as well. What does that mean? People who are don't have a family, you know, they don't have a place to go, they don't have, you know, people who are like Chatakeb, you know, like they're down and out, they don't have a place to go for Pesach, a Haggadah, so it's a mitzvah to make one for them, you know, to help them, to bring them into your house, bring them into your, whatever it is, like to arrange something for them. A lot of people do that, and this year should be no exception, you know, they shouldn't say, oh, you know, we're afraid of this, we're afraid of that. Some viruses will catch viruses, all kinds of viruses. We have to do mitzvot. Worried about viruses. So therefore, right, it's a mitzvah to invite. They say, by the way, that one of the most important things about Yom Tov, Kaidre, you know, of like Pesach and Sukkot is the Rambam states that not only to do it for you, for yourself and for your family, but to invite also people who need your guidance, who need your hospitality, the people who are, you know, disadvantaged, to bring them in and to give them also a taste of Pesach, a taste of the holiday, a taste of Yom Tov. And the Rambam says that if you don't do that, and if you just invite your family, you know, and just nobody else, so and you know somebody who really needs to come to you, and you don't bring them, so it says, right, it's like a very selfish kind of thing, you know, you're just doing it for your stomach, to fill up your stomach, you know, with food. What about to care for some other people who need you, you know, some other people who are disadvantaged? It's a very, very important thing to understand that. So yeah. So it's very important, you know, to open up your doors for the holidays and bring people in who are in need for, you know, not it could also be not only financially, you know, but they need just guidance, you know, they need an atmosphere, family, you know, some kind of the proper guidance to do the holiday. So this is one of the most important things. So what do? Once we bring everybody together, right? This is the Pesach night, the first night of Pesach. We have to do the Haggadah. When does the Haggadah start? It should start once the sun goes down, right? Shkiat HaChama, sunset. We wait about 20 minutes after that, 15, 20 minutes, and then we're ready to start. So once a person prays, you know, in the synagogue, hopefully we'll have prayers in the synagogue. You know, right now we don't have much going on, but hopefully we'll have prayers in the synagogue. So once you get home from the synagogue, right away you should get started. What does that mean? That the ladies who are at home should prepare the table, you know, and prepare all the preparations. So this way, once the men get home from the shul, from the synagogue, they shouldn't have to, you know, wait and, you know, let's wait a half hour until they do this. They should already do that before. The timing is of the essence. So one of the most important things about the Haggadah is to start on time. You know, not too early, but also not too late. Too early is no good. Why? Because we have to wait till the holiday actually starts. The holiday actually starts about 15, 20 minutes after the sun goes down. It's already started, according to the opinion of the Geonim. We don't do like Rabbi Tam. We don't wait 72 minutes like the opinion of Rabbi Tam. So 15 minutes, 20 minutes after the holiday starts, we should be already starting. What does that mean? We should already making kiddush. The first thing we do on a Seder night is to make kiddush. Just like any other Shabbat, just like any other Yom Tov, Kaidre, kiddush is the first thing. You know? So as we said, the kiddush should be done about 15 to 20 minutes after the sun goes down. If it's a little bit late, okay, whatever, you know, as soon as we can, we start. Not too early, not too late. Why is it important not to do too late? because the Haggadah has to be also be finished at a certain time, There has to be a pace observed. Don't just sit around, and like shoot the breeze. Oh yeah, we'll talk a little bit about this, we'll talk a little bit about that, get sidetracked to all kinds of side issues, family issues, okay, talking about current events, viruses, all kinds of this, how they catch the virus. Well, it's not the time for that now. You have a job to do. The job now is to do the Haggadah. So you have to stay focused on that. Why is that? Because the Haggadah should be done by Chatzot. What does that mean? Midnight. According to Halakha, midnight is about now, this time of year, in New York City, in the New York area, we're talking about 1 o'clock at night. So a person should be done with everything before that. The whole thing should be done, from A to Z, right? Especially the afikoman, which is the last thing that a person eats before he finishes the meal. Like a piece of matzah, just like you had now, right? You take like a kazait of matzah, about 30 grams of matzah. That's the last thing you eat before we finish the meal. So even that has to be done before before chatzot, before midnight. Very important thing. A lot of people are not particular about this, by the way. They just keep on talking and talking. They even say divrei Torah. But the point is that even if you say divrei Torah and you want to extrapolate a lot, and make a lot of nice, divrei Torah, words of wisdom about the Exodus, about all these things, you should do that but you have to set a pace, not too much, because everything has to be done before chatzot, before midnight, before 1 o'clock. So, what does that mean? That if you want to really, really go deep into all the stories, about Pesach and all the issues of Pesach and the Exodus, you want to go very deep and do all kinds of, deep analysis of these things, do that after you finish the Haggadah. Then you can do more. Why is that? The truth is, right, it's very praiseworthy to do that. It's very praiseworthy to go all night. If a person can, if he has the power to do that, most people today don't have the power to do that. They need to sleep a little bit also, But if you have the power to do it, they used to do, like in the old days, in times of Talmud, it says in the Haggadah itself, that Rabbi Akiva and his friends and his disciples, they would study the Torah all night, that night. Talk about the Exodus.
How long ago was this?
This was 2,000 years ago.
2000.
Yeah, before.
That's how old the Talmud is?
Yeah, they were talking about the Mishnah, right? The Talmud is the Mishnah and the Gemara. So the Mishnah was 2,000 years ago. Yeah, this is the timetable, right? So what they used to do is, Rabbi Akiva would stay up with the students all night until the morning, and then they would call them, and they would say, it's time to now say Kriyat Shema, to say the morning prayers. Until then, they would keep on talking about the Exodus, how it happened, and all the details, and all the all kinds of interesting stories, and all kinds of interesting things. Today, we're not so strong like that. We can't go all night, most of us. Some of us maybe can, if we're very, very strong. Yeah, if it's good for you, if it's something that your body can do, it's very, very good. But you have to also remember, they have to pray the next day as well. If you're going to miss prayers because of that, so that's already going too far. You have to pray at 7 o'clock. You got to pray and finish the prayers. So if you're going to miss all the prayers because you were up all night, talking about Exodus, so then you lost more than you gained. In a sense, Because really the obligation is not like that. The obligation is just to finish the Haggadah. Once you finish with the Haggadah, the obligation is finished. Then it's already optional. Do you want to do more? According to your strength, that's the idea, right? So if you have people who are like this, who are very verbose, they like to talk a lot, they're very, very analytical type of people, first finish the Haggadah, finish everything, Birkat HaMazon, say the Hallel in the end, all these things, and then go on and say more and more and more, but there's a timetable until there. It has to be done in a certain time, So this is the idea. So therefore, there has to be a pace also as well, Let alone the fact that people are also going to be complaining, right? Why is that? Because all the people who come, who are not so close to Torah, they're going to be saying, come on, I'm hungry already, let's go, don't keep me up till 3 o'clock in the morning. Like this, the ones who are more, down to earth people, they can't wait that long. Listen, you got to give them a break. So what does that mean? That a normal seder, normal Haggadah, they should start eating. Let's say around 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, start eating already, because otherwise, how are you going to finish by 1? All the Hallel and everything, Birkat HaMazon, the Apikoma and everything has to be done by 1 o'clock. So, you got to start at a decent time, at a reasonable time. And also, children are also waiting. How long are they going to stay up, the children? They're already very sleepy, they're very tired maybe, so they won't be able to stay up so long. So then you also defeat the purpose by that as well. This is the idea, no? So there has to be a pace, as we said, right? So now the sun goes down at this time of year in our area. The sun goes down around 7:15, right? Let's say. So at the time of Pesach, in 2 weeks, it's going to be about, let's say, 7:25, 7:30. So what does that mean? That a person should start like 7:45 already. Start the Haggada. Not play around, too much, mess around. Start on time, because there has to be a timetable. Everything has to be done on time. That's the idea. Okay, very good. So, just to understand, right, as we said, that the Haggada, the Gata Lebincha, it's mitzvah from the Torah to say the Haggada on the night of Pesach. We in Chutz La'aretz, in outside diaspora, we do 2 days. Over there in Israel, they do only 1. Each according to his custom, right? That's the way it is. Here we do 2, so you have to do the same thing the second night as well. Same thing, right? Carbon copy from the first night. No difference. There's no differentiation between the first night and the second night. That's the way it is. Over there, they only do 1. Okay, fine. So, as we said, right, that this is the central theme of the Pesach holiday, the Haggadah. You know why? Because, my Rabbi, Danielov, he told us something very important about this. That he said, one of the most important ways that the Jewish tradition is passed down from generation to generation, from father to son, is the Pesach Haggadah. This is where, the children really hear about Jewish tradition. They see, with their own eyes. They witness everything, So they feel that sense of tradition, that sense of belonging, So what does that mean? In order to spread the Jewish tradition, in order to carry it on from generation to generation, we must make sure that our children are inculcated, with the Jewish values, which are largely passed over on the Pesach night of the Haggadah. That's a very, very important night because of that. You're passing over Jewish tradition from one generation to another. So therefore, one of the most important facets of the Haggadah is to tell your children the story, and also to your family as well, to your wife, to your children, to your immediate family, your cousins, whatever, all these people that are in your surroundings, right, in your mode of right, your sphere of influence, right, all the people who are in that sphere. You have to make sure you take care of them, take care of their needs. This is the idea. Make sure that they get what they need. So passing down tradition is a very important thing. You have to tell your children over the story. You have to know, also polish up a little bit, right, to know what's being talked about. Right? One of the most important things is that you have to know the Haggadah, what it means. Because otherwise you're not really fulfilling your obligation just by reading something, like blah, 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 but you don't really know what you're talking about. So, therefore, right, the truth is the only way to fulfill your obligation for the Haggadah is to know the topic matter that you're reading. And if you're not Israeli, and you don't understand Hebrew very well, or you're not very Torah-oriented, so you don't understand Torah jargon very well. So what does a person have to do? Very simple. Today, Baruch Hashem, we have a solution for that. You buy a Haggadah with a nice translation, and everything is translated. So this way, when you read the Hebrew, you can also read it in English, and tell the people over in your family to explain to them what's being said. Otherwise, well, just what's the point of reading like that, right? What did you get from that? Just to read it, like some kind of a exercise, some kind of a habitual, speed reading. What is that? That's nothing. Nothing was achieved. So very important, therefore, that even if a person knows Hebrew very well, let's say he himself knows Hebrew, he knows Torah, Toriania, okay. But what about his wife? What about his children? He has to tell them over these things. They don't know. Not everybody knows these things. You have to explain to them. Very, very important. Right. This is the transmission of the Masoret. The Masoret is transmitted on Pesach very, very largely for the Jewish people. So therefore, it's a very big night. And the children are the stars of that night. They're the star. They have a starring role. So in order to bring them in, this is why the Chachamim made special provisions for that, for the children, in order to keep them awake, to keep them curious, to keep them interested. Right? What are we talking about? We're talking about the issue of that we do several changes in the way we do the meal, in the way we arrange the meal, in order that children should get curious. Number one, it's very good advice, by the way. You should know. They say that let the children sleep in the afternoon before Pesach a little bit. Get them like 2-3 hours of sleep, if they want, you can't force them, but they try to get them to get into sleep a little bit. Why? This way they're able to sleep longer, because we want them to hear the whole Haggadah from A to Z. We don't want them to fall asleep in the middle. So let them sleep a little bit in the afternoon. Give them a little nap in the afternoon, and what we do is like this, right? We do some changes in order to get the children curious. The first thing we do is that we pass out to them like lots of treats, candies and stuff, sweets. This is one of the traditions of Pesach. Why do we do that? Because then they ask you, oh, Abba, why you give me so many candies today? Like what happened? You're spoiling me today. So we tell them, oh, there's a special reason why we're doing that, right? Explain to them, this is the reason why. That's number one, right? Also, there's another trick that we do in order to get them curious. What is that? We also do the issue of taking away the plate. We're going to talk about that a little bit later on, about taking away the plate in the middle of the Haggadah. What we do is we start the Haggadah, we start talking, and all of a sudden, we say, okay, take everything away. So children are going to be saying, what, take everything away? What's going on over here? We didn't even start yet. Mm-hmm. We're just getting started. We're just getting warmed up. And you want to take everything away? So they're going to say, wow, why are we doing that? So I'll tell you why. Oh. So right, we're making all kinds of provisions like this for the children. You should ask questions. Be curious about it. That's the idea, So this is the way the Haggadah is structured in order to make the children curious, to teach the children, to pass on the tradition. This is the idea. Okay, so, right, just to get it straight, just the basic mitzvot. As we said, right, one of the basic mitzvot is to say over the Haggadah to yourself and also the people, the family members as well, whoever is there. They have to hear you and they have to understand what you're talking about. So you got to translate for them, as we said. This is the mitzvah aseh. It's a positive mitzvah from the Torah to do that. We also have other very important mitzvot on the Haggadah night, on the Seder night. One of them is the arba kosot, right? Which is what? To drink 4 cups of wine. On Pesach night, we drink 4 cups. Which is a lot, by the way. A person can get drunk with 4 cups of wine. So, the truth is, that it doesn't need to be like a very large cup of wine. We're not talking about like a Coca-Cola glass, 12 ounces. We're not talking about that. We're talking about a small glass. Revi'it. How much is Revi'it? We're talking about 80 cc's, which is about 3 ounces, basically, A little bit less than 3 ounces. So if you have a 3-ounce glass or a 4-ounce glass, nice small one, this is the best thing to use for Pesach, for the arba kosot, for the 4 cups of wine. You don't want to use something really too large, because that's going to get you, if you go with that, you're going to be out for lunch, forget about it, you're going to be out. So we don't want to give you too much. So therefore, recommended to use a small glass, 3 ounces, very, very good. And each one has to be drunk at a certain time. We have to talk about that. But the truth is that even if a person was not able to drink at a certain time, and he missed something, whatever, he has to make up anyway and drink 4 cups. Because 4 cups is like a deal breaker, on Haggadah. You have to have 4 cups of wine. Let's say a person cannot tolerate wine, right? Alcohol is too much for him, right? It's going to make him fall asleep or whatever. It's going to give him a stomachache, too much acid, So what should he do? Let him drink grape juice, right? Grape juice is also considered to be wine, according to halakha. Even though there are some rabbis who say it's better to drink wine because it gets you drunk, there's more like an expression of freedom over there, when it comes to drinking wine. But nevertheless, if a person is not able to tolerate wine, he certainly can drink grape juice, right, with no problem. He's not able to tolerate that, it's too much for him. Or he can do some mixing, a little bit this, a little bit that, 50% grape juice, 50% wine. He can do mixtures in order to come up with the right formula for his needs, as a person who's not so capable of holding his wine so much, according to his ability. Also, another thing is that when we do the 4 cups of wine, it's also a mitzvah to add some water to it, like mizug. We put like 3 drops of water or a little bit more, whatever, 3 times, according to Kabbalah, we put water in there, and we add the water and we fill it up so it gets full, nice and full, the whole cup, and then it's ready to go. That's the idea. So the first thing that we do is the kiddush, right, which is the first cup of wine that we just talked about now, right? The first cup is the kiddush. So what do? We set up the whole plate, right, the whole seder. We're going to talk about that, how you set it up, and how it's set up. But the idea is like this, right? The first thing we do is the kiddush, and then a person, once he finishes the kiddush, then what we do is we'll get to that in a second. But I just want to tell you, right, that also one of the main mitzvot of the night of Seder. Besides that, as we said, right, we're talking about reading the Haggadah, number one. Number two, 4 cups of wine or grape juice, right, if you can't tolerate it. Number three, also, to eat matzah, is the right, just like you did now. But that time it's really a mitzvah, This is just you're hungry, that's something else.
No.
Right? Yeah. But we do over here Pesach every week.
Yeah.
Halacha maniyah, right? So eating the matzah is also considered to be one of the most important mitzvot of the Leila Seder. How much does a person have to eat? Kazait, which is about half the size of an egg, size of half an egg. So in weight, this comes out to be, according to Rambam, according to the calculation that he made, comes out to be about 27 ounces. I'm sorry, 27 grams. 27 grams of
That's
which,
the
right?
minimum.
Yeah, that's the minimum that a person has to eat. But the rabbis added also like a little bit more. So a person should be a little bit liberal when he eats the matzah the first time. On the seder, should be a little bit more liberal. Right? Try to have like twice that amount. Let's say 50 grams. So if a person can swallow 50 grams of matzah in the first eating, that will be a really, really, really good thing, right? Which comes out to be, let's say, if you're using the round matzot, the handmade ones, they will be like about, let's say, maybe one half, like a little bit less than a half, something like that. Half of one of those matzot. So the first time person tries to eat the matzah, if you can have like half of those, that'll be really, really good. These machine matzot are smaller, so you have to eat like a whole, like one whole matzah. If it's a machine matzah. We're going to talk about that, by the way, which matzah is proper for this mitzvah. The truth is, that when you do the mitzvah of eating the matzah on the Leila Seder, it's not these matzot that we have. So which one are we talking about? We're talking about matzah shmura. What is matzah shmura? We're talking about matzah which was guarded, that no water should get on it, because water makes it chametz, right, with the wheat. Once the water gets on it, makes it chametz. So therefore, it was guarded all the time from all the way that they reaped the harvest. The wheat was guarded from that time, and until the time that it was baked, it was guarded all the way. It's called shmura, guarded matzah. So this is the reason why, when it comes to this mitzvah, of the first 2 nights outside of Eretz Israel, we have to have a matzah shmura, guarded matzah. So this is not suitable for that. This is suitable for afterwards, during the meals. You want to eat during the meal. This thing, very good, no problem. But when it comes to the first eating that we do, has to be matzah shmura, has to be guarded matzah, and that's a special one which you have to buy especially in it's a different package, right? It's a different configuration. So you have to make sure it says matzah shmura, it's guarded matzah, and you don't have to buy too much of that stuff because you only need it like the first 2 nights. So basically, like, let's say, depending on the size of your family, like let's say 1 or 2 pounds will be enough, like 1 kilo, something like that, right? Depending on how much how large your family is. It's going to cost you about, let's say, I don't know, $30, whatever, just round off, $30. Well, it'll cost you, because that matzah is more expensive, because it's very, very made very specially, very, very guarded, very, very careful. Everything should be done very, very good, because this is the mitzvah. This is one of the mitzvot of the Haggadah is to eat matzah. One of the mitzvot of the Torah. So the Torah commands us to eat, to say the Haggadah, as we said. Also commands us to have 1 kazait, 1 eating of matzah, the first night, or the first 2 nights, right? Depending on where you are. As we said, this is from the Torah, these things. What about the 4 cups of wine? It's the truth is that most of the poskim say it's from the rabbis, it's rabbinical. But nevertheless, very, very important thing. There are some who say it's also from the Torah. Whatever it is. But the point is that whatever it's from the Torah or not, very, very important mitzvah. So a person has to have these things for the Haggadah. These provisions he has to have there, available. Make sure that he has enough for everybody also. There should be a shortage. You know what I mean? Another important eating that we have during the Haggadah is the maror, right? And this is from the rabbis, this mitzvah, to eat maror on the Seder of Pesach, right? So just to give you a little bit background, right? Why do we eat maror? What's the reason why? As we said, right, that the matzah, we know why we eat, because we want to remember, right, the time of the Exodus. There's also other reasons because of that. There's also spiritual reasons that a person gets elevated by that spiritually, by eating matzah on Pesach. It's a spiritual elevation also that comes from that. That's for sure, no question about that. Mm-hmm. But when it comes to, as we said, right, So the matzah we eat because of this reason, and the maror, why do we eat? Because it's an affliction, that we remember the bitterness that we had over there in Egypt, in Mitzrayim, that they weren't allowing us to do Torah and mitzvot, they weren't allowing us to have children, all kinds of things, right? The affliction, the hard labor, all these kinds of things that we had, or the slavery, and so forth and so on. The bitterness of that travail that we had in Mitzrayim is represented by the maror, right? Bitter herbs, that's what we call it, right? In English. So, which vegetable should you use for maror, right? Which is the proper one? The Gemara really brings like 5 different species for that, that a person can use. In other words, each one of them is kosher for maror. Any other species, not kosher. Even though it may be bitter or whatever, it may be sharp, only these 5 species are kosher. So which ones are we talking about? We're talking about the most commonly used ones, right? There's also, by the way, priorities on this list. Which one is better than the other? So says the Gemara, the best one is chasa. In Aramaic, this is what it's called, right? Chasa. What is chasa? That's romaine lettuce, right? So romaine lettuce is the best maror that a person can choose, according to the Gemara, according to the Shulchan Aruch. The truth is, you find that in many Ashkenazi families, right, what are they using over there? They're using horseradish. Why is that, by the way? What's the reason why? So the reason is because in the Ashkenazi countries in Europe at that time, in those days, they didn't have a very good, sufficient supply of this romaine lettuce. Now they have everything. Baruch Hashem, everywhere in the world you have everything. Just about very, very great abundance we have today. But in those days, the abundance was not so great. So therefore, these types of leafy vegetables, were not so readily available in Europe. Because over there the climate is cold, so they don't grow over there so nicely. These things. We need like a warm climate to grow romaine lettuce. That's why much of it is grown where in California. In Israel also, they grow it over there. It's very conducive to that. So romaine lettuce is considered to be the best one. In Europe they didn't have it, so therefore they were using horseradish. This is the reason why they were using horseradish. So, interesting thing though, now question is like this, right? According to halakha, which one is better? Horseradish is better or romaine lettuce is better, right? So as we said, right, according to halakha, romaine lettuce is better. Yeah. Okay? So when it comes to, our community, you're right, they were using horseradish, So the question is why? So probably because they were influenced by the Ashkenazi, rabbis, or the rabbis who studied in Ashkenazi yeshivot over there. They brought this custom into Georgia, or it also could be that also over there they didn't really have much romaine lettuce. I'm not sure. They had it over there, such a good supply. There's also another reason why romaine lettuce is a little bit problematic. You know why? Even though it's considered to be the best one according to the Talmud, according to halakha, the problem is that it has a lot of bugs, a lot of worms, a lot of thrips, all kinds of things, right? So therefore, if you don't check it and you use it like unchecked, so you could be eating bugs instead. They're quite infested, these leaves, right? So this is the reason why if you're using romaine lettuce, you have to check each leaf, visually.
Yeah.
First, wash it good under the sink, and then visually check each one to see if you see any funny activity going on there, right? All kinds of interesting dancing, movements, all kinds of stuff. Even if it's not movements, if you see something like which is not usual,
I'm surprised that those little tiny insects are not insignificant.
It's interesting, right? By the way, what you're saying. The question is, when does it become insignificant according to the Torah? So the rule is like this, right? They asked Moshe Feinstein about this. When do we say the bug is significant, and when do we say it's not significant? So he said, according to the Torah, if you can see it with the naked eye, something, it's significant. But if you can't see with the naked eye, in other words, you need like a microscope or a magnifying lens, that's not significant. It has to be visible to the naked eye. What does that mean? Not the configuration of the body, but the fact that you see something there, like a dot.
And usually on that you see it.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on what you see. Everybody's, you have to check out what's going on there. But the point is that if you do see something, so it must be removed from there. Otherwise, you're transgressing. Eating a bug is considered to be a very big sin. Which is worse, by the way, just to give you a sense of what's going on. Which is worse, eating pork or eating a bug? So the truth is that eating a bug is considered to be much worse than eating pork. Why is that? Because pork only has one prohibition in the Torah. One time it's written, not to eat, right? It's a one shot. It's a one shot deal. You know, when it comes to bugs, we're talking about 5 prohibitions at least. Sometimes 6 or 7, depending on what type of bug it is. Yeah. So can you imagine?
Yeah.
So the bug is considered to be 5 times or 6 times or 7 times worse than the pork.
Any bug.
Right. Any bug, as long as you can see something there. You know,
Any insect.
it's visible to the naked eye.
You would think that bugs would be kosher automatically.
There are some, of those what do they call them, right? The locusts that are kosher.
Oh, those are
some
kosher,
of them,
yeah.
not all of them.
Yeah.
You have to get the certain signs over
Yeah.
there. You know.
It's a big bug.
Yeah, for sure it is.
Coli coli.
Right? Those grasshoppers, right? Yeah.
Locusts. Why? Because they infested the Egyptians?
No, because in the Torah, we have a tradition about that. The Torah is very delineated, and all these things are delineated.
Yeah.
Very, in the Talmud, we have the rules about that.
Yeah.
How to see if the locust is kosher and if it's not kosher. All kinds of, how the legs are and how the.
So pork is actually not the biggest sin?
Well, it's interesting, by the way,
Yeah.
that
I'm not going to eat it.
why. So then, why is pork the one who gets the raw deal in Judaism?
Yeah.
Like the biggest. It's like the biggest. Disgusting. Like abominable thing. To a Jewish, family or to a Jewish mind, a Jewish psyche. Why is that, by the way? Why does the pork considered to be the biggest problem? You know why? Because the truth is, the Chazal teach us that when a person eats pork, there are also many other things which are not kosher besides pork. But pork causes a certain thing inside of a person, Each non-kosher thing that you eat causes some damage in the soul, So they say the pork, what damage does it do? It causes a person to become heretical, to have heretical beliefs. So therefore pork is considered to be very, very much problematic because of that.
I always thought it's because Mel Gibson has one as a pet. He has a.
I didn't know that.
He has a pig as a pet.
He also is one. He is one himself also. You are, as they say, right? You are what you eat. You are what your pet is also reflects on you as well. So, anyway, right? The idea is that the pork, they say a person who eats pork causes heresy. And this is why, all the pork eaters, they're the ones who are, the idolatry is very strong in them, They're the ones who, are very idolatrous usually, the people like that.
Does it affect the soul of the Gentiles also, eating pork?
You know what it is? The truth is, for them it's allowed to eat pork. They're allowed.
Yeah, they're allowed.
But nevertheless, like some of them refrain from it because they know that it's not a good thing,
Right.
It's not a healthy experience, to have that thing. And the truth is, that there's a lot of truth to that. I mean, they're allowed to eat it. There's no question about that. They have no prohibition. But some of them elect not to eat it because they know that it's associated with all kinds of things.
Yeah.
It's whatever. It's really like it's the food of heresy.
It spoils easily. Also, the meat spoils.
Yeah, there's a lot of issues with it.
Yeah.
A lot of issues. Very, very, very unclean kind of atmosphere they grew up in.
Why do they call it the other white meat? Is there a link?
I don't know exactly why.
Yeah.
Anyway, getting back to the Pesach. So the bugs are even worse, right? So a person who eats romaine lettuce has to make sure that either he gets like a kosher one, which is greenhouse grown, supervised, this kind of thing. And then, all he has to do is just wash in the sink. That will be enough. But if he gets just a regular one from the garden variety romaine lettuce, he has to check each leaf. You don't really need that much because, you don't really have that much. It's like, each person has to have like, let's say, a few leaves of romaine lettuce. That will be enough. So, you don't have to have a big amount. One head probably would be enough for everybody, for the whole family. One head of lettuce, whatever. But the truth is that today, Baruch Hashem, we have in the stores, in places which are more Judaism, is more widespread. And like here we have Main Street, places like this, Casina, we have and also all the more so in Israel they have, right, the ones that are greenhouse grown. So if you buy those, it's more simple, just wash it. You wash it good under the sink. It's ready to go, right? So they say, by the way, an interesting thing. Why is romaine lettuce considered to be the best one out of these 5 types of maror? Right? The second one is endives, by the way. Endives is the second one after romaine lettuce. Endives. And then we have the ones that the Ashkenazim use, the horseradish, right? It's considered to be like down the list more. It's not even the second one.
Yeah.
So as we said, right, they use it because of the fact that there was availability wasn't in Europe. They didn't have availability. But now that we have availability, the truth is, that if you're a smart Ashkenazi and you don't care so much about what your forefathers did when it comes to this issue, because you really shouldn't, because it's not really. They didn't do it because it was the best type. They did it because there was no choice. So therefore, if a person is smart and clever, even whether it's Ashkenazi or Sephardi or whatever he is, and he should opt for the romaine lettuce, considered to be the best type. But the Chazal teach us, right? Why is romaine lettuce considered to be the best maror, and not like endives and the horseradish? You know why that is? Because the even though the romaine lettuce is not so bitter, by the way, it's a little bit bitter. It's not very bitter, especially when you buy it in Israel. Over there, it's like very, very. It's almost like sweet.
Yeah, it's very mild.
Very mild.
Yeah.
So then why is it considered to be the best thing? It's not so bitter at all. So they say, you know why? Because the romaine lettuce has exactly the nature of how the slavery in Mitzrayim, right, our galut over there, the exile that we had in Mitzrayim, is considered to be the one that really portrays that exile exactly. What does that mean? That when the first Jews came there, Yaakov Avinu and his family, 70 souls, they came to Mitzrayim, they actually were very respected over there, and they were very admired. The Jewish family was considered to be the best family over there. So little by little, what happened was that the Egyptians started to respect them and to admire them, but as time went on, right, they started to enslave them and to torture them and to try to discriminate against them and to kill them and to do all kinds of nasty things to them, right? All kinds of terrible things, torture them, all kinds of things. So the galut of Mitzrayim, the exile, started out not so bitter. It was very, very good actually in the beginning, But then it deteriorated as time went along. You know what I mean? So this is exactly how the romaine lettuce is, right? When you start eating on top of the leaf, it's not bitter at all over there. The top, the leaf itself, the green part. Once you get to the bottom, to the stalk, so it gets more and more bitter. This is exactly how the galut of Mitzrayim was, right? It started out not bitter at all, right? Even like somewhat sweet and pleasant. But then as you get to go along, it got worse and worse. Right? It went downhill. So the chasa, the romaine lettuce, exactly exemplifies that whole experience that we had over there, from beginning to end. So this is exactly why the romaine lettuce considers to be the best one, the best out of those, right? Also, there's another issue, by the way, you should know, that since we have to eat romaine lettuce, we have to eat a kazait. In other words, also on half an egg size, which is about 27 grams, as we said. 26 grams, 27 grams. So you have to have a certain, pretty large amount. I mean, relatively speaking, not that large, but. So what that means is, can you imagine having 27 grams of horseradish in one eating? What's it going to do to you? It's going to burn you, right? Like you're going to be like, it's tough to do that. So what people do is that what they tend to do is that when they have horseradish, because it's so bitter, they can't eat a lot because they eat very little, And this way they might not even fulfill their obligation, because the obligation is only fulfilled with a kazait, with 27 grams, half the size of an egg, So that's why also another reason why romaine lettuce is better, because that you can definitely eat, that much, that amount. There's no issue. It's not going to bother you. It's going to be very pleasant to eat that, right? But if you can eat horseradish, 27 grams, you may wind up in the hospital, I mean, so we don't want to give you too much of extreme. So therefore, the truth is that because of this reason also, better to avoid the horseradish, because of this reason as well. It's just too bitter, It's too severe. It's like, it causes like, a very severe reaction in the body, especially if you haven't had it for a while. Just, why do you have to go, to such an extreme like that? There's no reason for that. There's no reason, right? And don't say, my forefathers didn't, what, your forefathers didn't have it, romaine lettuce. So what do you care about that? Do what Hashem wants from you. Don't do necessarily what your forefathers did, because they just didn't have the supply. They didn't have the wherewithal to get that stuff. That's the idea. Okay, very good. So as we said, right, we have the maror. We have also another thing which is necessary, right, for the Haggada, which is karpas, right, karpasi. So the question is, what is the identity of the karpas? What vegetable that is that? So according to tradition, we have a tradition that goes back all the way. Karpas is celery. This is the vegetable you need for karpas. So what does that mean? That the best thing to do is to buy celery, go to a store, and the interesting thing about celery is, right, there's two elements over there. You have the leafy part, and you have the stalks, So leafy part is a little bit more problematic. You know why? Because over there there's bugs. Just like on the romaine lettuce, you have bugs. Also over there on the leaves, you get bugs over there. They're very common. So therefore, the best thing to do is take off the leaves, throw them in the garbage, right, or whatever, dispose of them, and use the stalks only. The stalks are very easy, to look at, to check. They can just wash them, they usually don't have so many bugs. So therefore, the stalks are much, much better to use than the leaves. This is the idea, So karpas, it should be the celery should be the karpas of choice. But if a person can't get, you here you can get anything you want. Nowadays, Baruch Hashem, everything is available. But if a person cannot get, let's say, for instance, karpas, he cannot get these kinds of things, so he can use another vegetable as well. Here also, the Ashkenazim, by the way, they didn't have celery over there in Europe so much available in those days. So what they used to use was like a carrot or something, like some other vegetable. And this is fine, by the way. If you cannot find celery in the place where you live today, Baruch Hashem, we have. But if you cannot find, so you can use a different vegetable. Some people use potatoes, some people use the carrots, all kinds of things like this. As long as you use a vegetable, that's the idea. We don't really care so much about the karpas, what actually it is. But if you can do the right one, why not? Why compromise and use the wrong one? This is the idea, right? So this is basically the supplies that we need. Also, we need a pretty decent supply of eggs as well. For the Haggada. Why is that? Because we have to put, right, as a reminder for the Korban Chagiga, we have to put some eggs on the table. That's one of the elements. Mm-hmm. Also, we need some barbecued meat. Let's say like a shank bone. Like we call that, right? Chicken wing, or you can use the leg. The leg, yeah. Leg and thigh, whatever, anything like that. But you have to make it with the fire. It has to be roasted on the fire. Yeah. So you use that. So this is basically the ingredients that we need. All these things that we just mentioned now, to do this Haggadah properly. To make sure that you've got all the proper mitzvot and all the things that we just mentioned. That's the idea. So once we have all these things, as we said, right, the first thing we do is the kiddush. Number one, right? Now the kiddush, as we said, we mentioned what you should use for the kiddush. We mentioned what kind of wine you should use, all kinds of things like this. There's also all kinds of other issues that are associated, when it comes to the kiddush. There's also another issue, which is that, according to Rambam, you shouldn't use wine which was pasteurized, like cooked, boiled. But the truth is that the custom is to use those things. So actually, we're not so medactic about that. We're not so particular about that. So we use also wine which was pasteurized. There's no problem with that. So the grape juice today is all like pasteurized anyway, So if you're using grape juice, it probably will be pasteurized. Some person told me, he says, what I'll do? I'll just I'll buy some grapes, and I'll squeeze them, I'll make my own juice, I said, fine, no problem. If you want to do it that way, do it that way, If this is what makes you happy, you want to make your own grape juice, and use that, okay, fine, that's also considered to be a good option. Why not, But if it's too difficult to do that, it's quite a lot of work, so a person should skip on that. Okay, very good. So then, once you do the kiddush, you have to make sure, by the way, that when you do kiddush, you do it the right way. What does that mean? To look in the sidur. You have to have a special sidur, a machzor, it's called, right? For Pesach. And you have to say what it says over there. Don't just say, Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam borei pi hagefen. Sabri mananan. It's not the way you make kiddush, right? Kiddush has also some other things you have to say. So a person has to make sure. that you make the kiddush the proper way. You have to have a special sidur, like a machzor.
You had to see my father making kiddush.
What do
בזאת אחת. נוגה כתוב. סברי בנן ברוך אתה.
You're talking about Shabbat, or are you talking about Shabbat?
Yeah. Haggada we never did.
You never did. Ah, really interesting. Wow. So you never had one in the...
No, we did the brachas. We
Yeah.
had the the maror, whatever. You
Yeah.
know, and that was
Right.
just a
Ah,
blessing.
so you had some blessings.
Yeah, we had some.
Okay, okay, I understand. Okay, interesting. Okay, so now's the time, right, to get into it, get back into it. So, as we said, make sure you have the Siddur and everything is written properly over there, because for Yom Tov, it's not the same Kiddush as a Shabbat. It's a different Kiddush, you know? So the person has to know how to say the Kiddush properly. Make sure you have a good Siddur. For Pesach, especially, has to be for Pesach. If you don't have, by the way, you know, you can order it online, you know, you can buy it in a store, or you can, you know, borrow one from a shul, you know, whatever, you know. No big deal. It's not the end of the world. You know, there's always ways to get around. But the truth is that a person should have a good private one in his house. What does that mean? Translation, you know, English translation, so you can know what he's saying over there. You know, you have to be ready. You know, you have to be ready. If your person doesn't have a good siddur, a good machzor, how is he going to be ready for Pesach like that, right? You won't be able to do the Haggada, because the Haggada is also written there, by the way. In a good machzor, the Haggada is also written there. You know, so you should have it. Everything should be there. Baruch Hashem. So as we said, right, once you finish a Kiddush, also another interesting thing about the Kiddush that we do on Pesach is that we say Shechianu. Very important, right? Once we finish Kiddush, right, we say Baruch Atah Hashem, Elokeinu melech haolam, asher, right, Shechianu v'kiyimanu v'giyanu l'azim hazeh.
Rabbi, I want to ask you something. Because of what's going on, do you think that it's actually going to keep families from coming together and inviting people?
I hope not, right? Yeah. I hope that won't happen, you know. People are going to get so crazy, you know. They're going to start, okay, what can we do, you know? We do the best we can. People are scared, as we said, right? People are afraid and are frightened. What can we do? We can't change everybody's, you know, behavior, you know. I guess when the governments announce that we can go back to normal life, they'll do it, but, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, does it really depend on the government? They're the ones who should tell us. What do you think when the government allows it? Like, you think that Corona is going to be stopped? It's not going to be stopped. They're not going to. You know, they're not going to stop the disease.
But do you agree with the president that he should implement the opening of everything on the 12th? I think he wanted to do it on the 21st. Now he wants to do it on the 12th.
I think that it should go back to normal as soon as possible.
Absolutely. It's not going to stop it.
No, it's not going to stop it. It's not going to stop it.
Yeah.
It's not going to stop it.
I agree with you.
So,
100%.
you know, but, you know, people are just going to, you know, they're going to start going nuts. I mean, you know, no parnasa, no work. The people are going to, you can't live like that.
Yeah.
You know, how long can you live like that?
Yeah. I agree with you. You're actually
No money.
One of the very few that agrees that that, you know, sitting home is not going to really do.
It's not going to solve the
you know,
problem.
maybe for some certain cases, some very old elderly.
Right. Yes.
You know,
There are some people who are in danger.
with,
You know.
with
Yes.
you know?
Yes.
But for the average person, it's not going to make a difference. You know, I got into the elevator 4 times today. If I'm going to get it, I'm going to get it in there because somebody probably came in and sneezed or coughed in there. You know, it's a joke. You know, you can't avoid
There's
it.
no way. There's no way to, you know. You can't live a sterile life. I'm sorry.
No,
you know, it just doesn't work.
That's
you know?
the word, yeah.
There's no way to do that. So, you know, the truth is, you know, one person asked me, you know, I told you just, Jimmy just called me, you know, and asked me about making a minyan, you know, like that. Same question I was asked by somebody else, another friend of mine, regarding like doing Haggadah like that, you know, do like a Zoom kind of, you know, conference, you know, and like, you know, whatever, this kind of thing. So there are some rabbis who recommended that. You know, they said that you turn it on before the holiday and let it just run like that, you know, and you can do like a Zoom kind of conference thing, whatever. Some rabbis came out against it. They said, oh, don't do Zoom, you know, it's not the spirit of the holiday, and whatever, all kinds of things like this, going back and forth, whatever. I say, listen, you know, just get your family together and do what you have to do. What can you do, you know? Yeah. This is our mitzvah. You want to skip the mitzvah? You want to go into isolation and do it isolation? Okay, be my guest, you know, what can I do, you know? To each his own. The truth is, you know, that a person who's really isolated, you know, let's say he has to be isolated. Let's say he's quarantined, right? He can do it by himself also. There's no prohibition to do Haggadah by yourself. Some people actually have done that, you know? I think that they say in the Gemara that Rabbi Akiva one time, you know, he had to do it by himself. He was on the road somewhere. He had nobody. He had nobody with him. You know, I got a family. Baruch Hashem. You don't have to get a family to take care of. Good question. We'll let you know.
I mean, it's basically you and your mom.
Yeah, but there's all my children are also here.
Oh, they're here.
Yeah, my kids are also here, and also 2 of my kids are here, and there may be also guests coming. My sister may come also. You know, so you know,
very nice.
Last year she came.
Yeah, okay, good.
This year maybe she's gonna be, you know, coming with a gas mask.
Good.
I don't know what's gonna be. You know how it is, right? Woo, gas mask. Whatever. Okay, so that's the idea. So once you have to make sure you say Shechianu. Once you finish the Kiddush, make sure you say the right Kiddush for that night, and then do Shechianu. So then, once we do that, the next step, right, just to give you a taste of, let's just go over, right, the issue of how to set up the table, the Haggadah table, because all these elements that we just mentioned, ingredients that we just mentioned, they have to be set up a certain way, So let's just have a picture of how it has to be set up. So here, right, it gives you the diagram here, how to do. So, like, there's a north side, east, west, right, and south, right? So each of these foods has to be put in a certain order. This is the proper way to do it. This is not the end of the world if we didn't do it this way, but this is the custom, properly custom, especially according to Kabbalah, according to the Arizal, this is the way to do it, right? There are different customs, by the way. So Ashkenazim do a little bit different, but we Sfardim, we do like the Arizal. So this is our way. So what do? We put the 3 matzot, right? As we said, this to be special garden matzah, matzah shmura, for that Haggadah. You need the 3 matzot like that. Should be here on the north side, right? North Pole. The 3 matzot are on the north side. Here, on the right side here, right, on the east side, northeast, we have the zroa. This is the the chicken leg. Right, chicken leg should be over there on this side, and then we have over here on the left side, on the west coast, right? We have the betzah, we have the egg. So again, right, 3 matzot over here on the top. The zroa, the chicken leg is here on the right side, on the east side, and on the west side we have the egg. Here in the middle, we put the maror, which is the romaine lettuce, as we said, right? Or if you're using some other type, whatever type you're using. The maror is over here in the middle, right in the center, right? And then we have the charoset, right? Also we need, right? Which reminds us of the what do they call that, right? The teat, which is like the mud that they used to use, the clay, to make buildings, all kinds of things like this. So here the charoset has to be put on the right side, on the bottom, like southeast, like where Florida is, around that area, right? Charoset, the sweet stuff, is over here, and here on the southwest, this is like California over here, right? Karpas, that's where you put the karpas, the celery. And on the bottom over here, we have to put chazeret, right? Now, what is chazeret? Chazeret is like also romaine lettuce. So the truth is that we need, if you're using romaine lettuce for the maror, you need two dishes of that. One for the maror in the middle, and then another dish of romaine lettuce for chazeret on the bottom. So two plates of romaine lettuce you need, basically. If you do it this way, one here, one in the middle, and one on the south side, south pole. This is the way it's done, right? This is the way you have to set up the Haggadah, according to this, according to the Arizal, according to the Kabbalah. That's the idea, right? So once we finished the Kiddush, as we just mentioned, the next step, what is that? Then we do, right, urchatz. Next step is we wash our hands. Right? What are we washing our hands for now? We're not eating yet the meal.
Because of the coronavirus.
So then you better use soap if that's the case. The sanitizer, right? Whatever. So, no, joking, but really the truth is, right, what are we washing for over here? Because now we're going to have the karpas, and we're going to dip it into liquid. What kind of liquid do you dip the karpas? You dip it into salt water or vinegar. One or the other. So when you dip something into a liquid, the rule is you have to wash your hands. And this is the reason why we have to go now wash our hands. But we don't make netilat yadayim. We don't say the bracha. Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al netilat yadayim. We don't say it over here now. You know why? Because when you eat a vegetable which is wet like this, we don't make a blessing for that. Only for bread. So therefore, we wash our hands, and we do like 3 times. Like the Sfardim do. With the Sfardim do, we do with 3 times. Even if you did 1 time, it's okay. Because you're just watching for the vegetable. So basically, what happens over here is that you're washing without a bracha, and then you come, and then the head of the household will give to each person 1 piece of karpas, celery, right? That's the idea. The stalks, as we said. Each one will get one small piece. It has to be a small piece. Why is that? Because you're not supposed to have a lot of karpas. You're supposed to have a small amount. How much? Less than a kazait, less than 25 grams. Like let's say 10 grams, 15 grams of karpas, little, dinky thing like this. Remember? So what we do is that we dip that after we wash our hands, no bracha, no blessing. We take that celery, we dip it into the salt water or vinegar, and we say, right, what's the blessing? Baruch atah Hashem, Elokeinu melech haolam, borei pri hadama. This is a vegetable, borei pri hadama. That's what we bless, the karpas. Why do we do this, by the way? What's the reason that we're having karpas over here now? What's the whole idea? So the idea over here is like this, right, to get the children curious. Why are they dipping now, this vegetable into the water, into salt water? Why are we having over here now? We haven't even started dinner yet. Is this time not to eating salad? Celery? What? So they're going to ask you, what's going on here? We haven't even started yet. We haven't even started eating bread. And you're already having karpas. This is another way to make them curious. This is the reason why we do that. We dip the karpas into the water, as we said, the vinegar. That's the idea. So the reason why you have to have a small amount is because if you have a large amount, which is bigger than kazait, so then you get into a question. You have to make also after blessing as well, right? So since we're not sure if the halacha is to make a blessing or not, there's a machloket, there's a dispute in the poskim regarding that. So therefore, what we do is we have a small amount, and this way, when we have a small amount, for sure we don't make a after blessing of karpas. So we do that. Now the interesting thing is, right, we have to interject one thing, and maybe we'll stop that here tonight, and we'll go on next time, right? Because it's pretty long. It's a long issue with this whole thing. But the thing is like this, right? That there's a very important mitzvah also on the Haggada night, with Leil Seder, that a person should be reclining, like this, to the left side, like this, What's the reason why we recline? This is called Hesed in Hebrew, right? Reclining. What's the reason why we recline? Because it's like a sign of freedom. In those days, the people who were like aristocrats, free people, they were like reclining like this, on the couch,
I see.
So it's a sign of freedom that we do. So a person should be leaning on his left side. So then the question is, right, when does he have to lean? So the truth is, it's very recommended, praiseworthy, Some people can't do this. It's not so practical maybe today also, because we're not used to it. But if you can do it like doing the whole Haggada, like this, to be recline like this, it's very, very good. But if it, gives you like a backache and you can't tolerate that, no need to do that. But there are certain times during the Haggada when a person has to really recline. If he didn't do the mitzvah properly. So one of them is when he drinks the 4 cups of wine, right? Each cup of wine that he drinks, he requires reclining to your left side, not to the right side. Why is it, by the way?
I know why my cousin did that. Okay. And he's not exactly very.
Yeah, right, exactly right. Is he Israeli?
I was wondering why.
Was he Israeli?
I'm sorry, no, he's from.
Okay. From Georgia, okay.
Yeah.
So anyway, the idea is like this, right? Not to lean on the right side. Why on the left side, not on the right side? Because they say the right side, the rabbis say, that it can cause a person to choke. In other words, it may go down, instead of going down the food pipe, go down the windpipe. So what happens is when you lean on the right side, it opens up your windpipe.
Yeah.
This is the nature of the body.
Nice.
You know what I mean? So therefore, make sure, right, you don't lean on the right side. It's dangerous to do that. Lean on the left side. So that's why it's good to have some kind of cushion prepared, some kind of pillow over there. You can lean on a little bit, right?
I remember asking him, I'm sorry, he says that, like you were okay just a second ago. He said he don't get me damage.
He should have explained to you. He didn't know, I guess. Okay, anyway. The point is, right, that so therefore, when you make the kiddush, since it's one of the 4 cups of wine, you have to make sure when you drink the kiddush, you have to be reclining. Otherwise, you got to do it again. So you don't want to drink too much, right? As it is, your 4 cups is already a lot of drinking.
Yeah.
So therefore, make sure when you drink the first cup, and also all the 4 cups as well, that you're reclining to the left side, and then you drink like that. So what happens is that the matzah also requires this reclining when you eat the matzah as well. The first time that you eat, not during the meal. During the meal, you can eat whatever you want. You can eat however you want. But when you're talking about the first eating the matzah, you also have to be reclining. Also for the 4 cups as well. But there are 2 things that don't require reclining, right? One is the karpas, does not require, because really karpas is not a part of that, right? That whole theme. of Pesach, it reminds us of the affliction, or so we don't really have to remind ourselves that we're free when doing a karpas. So during karpas doesn't require reclining.
I see.
Also, there's another thing which does not require reclining, which is the maror, right? Why? Because the maror is affliction, right? We're reminding ourselves of affliction, so it's not really a time of reminding yourself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Of freedom. That you're a free man. You're just the opposite, right? So therefore, the maror doesn't require reclining.
Yeah.
But when it comes to the 4 cups of wine, and when it comes to the matzot that you're eating during the first eating of matzot, that requires reclining. So therefore, make sure that you recline. That's the idea, right?
But I wanted to ask you, who decreed, really, that we should keep these rituals?
Yeah.
Passover, Purim, every year.
Well, this is from the Torah. The truth is. It's written in the Torah, as we said, right? The Torah tells us to keep the holidays. It delineates all the holidays. Which one we have to keep?
In the 5 books of Moses?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it's all delineated.
Because a lot of the things that we so-called celebrate or do the rituals of to remind us happen after we receive the Torah.
Yeah, it's true what you're saying, but the truth is that regarding the holidays of Sukkot and Pesach, these things happen before we receive the Torah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Right.
And also, the concept of Yom Kippur also, and the concept of Rosh Hashanah, this is before. Yeah. So also Shavuot, right? Shavuot is the holiday that we receive the Torah. That's the whole idea, right?
Sure.
So pretty much all these holidays were. These are the main holidays for Jewish people, right?
Mm-hmm.
Pesach, Sukkot, Shavuot, right? These
Yes.
Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur. These are all before, or during, right? Whatever, during. That's the idea. So therefore, right, when a person eats karpas, he does not have to recline, as we said.
Right.
So eats a small amount of karpas, of celery. And another thing I want to tell you is that regarding the women, right? Because the women are, they also are obligated in all these mitzvot that we just mentioned. What does that mean? They have to do 4 cups of wine. Since they cannot tolerate too much wine, let them drink grape juice. No problem, right? But they have to drink something. You can't just say, oh, I'm a woman, I'm exempt. No, nobody exempted you. If you don't tolerate alcohol, you don't want women drinking 4 cups of wine. It's too much for them. They're gonna get tipsy. They're gonna get crazy.
Yes.
So it's gonna be dangerous. So therefore, we tell them, listen, you can have maybe 1 cup of wine, and the rest can drink grape juice. Which is the same thing according to halakha. That's the idea. But when it comes to reclining, as we said, right, when a person drinks 4 cups of wine, he has to recline. But for the women, it's not exactly the same thing. What does that mean? That the women are according to the basic halakha of the Talmud, the women are not required to recline. Why is that? Because they're under the authority of their husband, So therefore, they're not really free so much in that sense.
Not anymore. But,
We're going to talk about that. Right? That's the idea. Yeah. So they're not really so much free. So the husband doesn't like that, that they show freedom in front of them. What makes you so free? You're my wife. You belong to me. Excuse me.
Also, I don't think it's proper that a woman should sit like this.
That's the idea, That's also the idea, right? But here it's a matter of mitzvah. Like nobody takes it like some kind of a gesture, sexual gesture. Nobody takes it that way in Pesach. You know what I mean? This is just basically like it's a ritual. So what's the idea? The idea is that nowadays, by the way, the custom is by most families that the women do recline. Why is that? Because there's two reasons given for that. One is because today the husband usually doesn't care about that. Like what does the husband care that his wife is reclining? He knows why she's doing that, and he's not. He knows that she's not doing it to stick the finger into saying give him the finger. That's not the reason why he's doing that. She's doing it because she wants to fulfill the mitzvot properly. So therefore, the husband doesn't usually mind. A normal husband today will not even think twice about that. What's he gonna say? Hey, what are you doing reclining in front of me? You think you're free? There's no fanatic husbands today like that. You understand? So this is one reason why we allow them to recline if they want to. They really should, because since the husband doesn't mind, he doesn't think anything of it, so there's no problem. But there's also another reason why, which is brought down in the Ramah. The Ramah also brings a different reason, because the women today they're chashuv. It says in the Gemara in the Talmud that if a woman is a prominent lady, so she's allowed to recline. You know why? Because she's not really like a slave of her husband so much. You know what I mean? She's independent. Let's say she's a business lady, she's a politician, senator, congresswoman, excuse me, I'm your slave. I'm a politician, I'm not like that So what does that mean? That the woman who's prominent, the Gemara says, she doesn't have to worry about that. She can recline because her husband knows that she's an independent lady. She's not so dependent. She's not like under her husband's whatever. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
That's the idea. So therefore, because of these two reasons today, now the women are more liberated. So we don't care so much about that.
Really?
What does that mean? You didn't know that. You didn't know, right?
Yeah.
You didn't know. I'm telling you good, fresh news, off the press, right? So today, the truth is that women are very prominent in the sense that, their professions and, in the old days, by the way, women were very primitive. They didn't even know how to read properly. Like a woman would.
You don't think it was better then?
Your grandmother, your grandmother's mother, she probably didn't know how to read.
No, my side of the family, they all were actually very affluent. I mean,
Yeah, affluent is one thing.
But
when you go back, like a couple of generations,
yeah.
the women were not.
Yeah,
they were not educated at all.
Yeah,
They were not educated. They didn't get education. Today it's not like that. They read very well and they have professions and they have education.
And what does the Torah think about?
And not only that, by the way, sometimes how it is today, right? The women are making more money than the men are. In many cases that's the way it is.
So what's with the
You have a husband and a wife. Husband is making 50,000 and wife is making 100,000.
Good,
You know what I mean? You know what I mean? So how can you say now, oh, your wife is like, she's being she's being arrogant by reclining? She makes more money than you. You know what I mean? So because of these reasons, today we're not particular about that. So therefore, really, the truth is that women should recline, according to most poskim nowadays. But there's one practical difference, right? Since in essence, right, in the essence of the actual, the essence of the halacha, they're not required to recline, because they're, under the authority of their husbands. So therefore, if they didn't recline, let's say, right, they forgot, they don't have to go back and do it again. Because we can rely on the fact that they're still a woman, She's just a woman to me, That's all she is, right?
I'm glad that we dedicated.
She's only a woman to me.
We dedicated the last 20 minutes to women. I'm really happy about that. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So therefore, if they didn't recline, they can rely on the basic halakha. It doesn't require women to recline. But if they want to recline, even if they're not really sure, they should, because today, it's like we all nobody cares about that. Nobody even weaks his eye about that. There's no issue with that, right? So therefore, they should recline the chatchila. The best way to do is recline. But if they don't recline, b'diavad, we can forgive them for that, and right, they don't have to go do it again. But the men, if they forgot to do one of the crucial elements, as we said, 4 cups of wine or eating the matzah without reclining, they have to go back and do it again, right? Because they didn't fulfill their obligation. Because the rabbi said it has to be done with the spirit of freedom, emancipation, and that's the right. That's the idea. So it has to be done like this, You're a free man. You're a noble man now, right? You're not anybody's slave anymore. That's the idea, right? Nobody can tell you what to do. That's it, right? That's the idea. Okay, Baruch Adonai Le'olam, Amen, Amen. We'll continue next week. Hashem. There's still a lot more to cover in the Haggada, a lot of things. But it's good to know, practically speaking, how to do it properly. This way, But I just want to say one thing, right? That the Rabbi Maran, he used to advise us one thing. That before you come to the Haggada, if you really want to do it properly, make sure you prepare. What does that mean? That, get the structure properly, go over it, see what's going on. Mm-hmm. And also, besides that, you should know what to tell, prepare some stories to tell over to the family, to the children, some nice stories to get them into it a little bit, get them interested, because if you don't tell them anything, just read through it like, very mechanically, they're not going to be so interested in that. Right. So make sure, you got some tricks up your sleeve, some nice stories, some nice ideas, some nice chidushim, novel ideas, some new ideas about how to approach these things, how to understand. Make sure you can do some entertainment, entertain them a little bit, not just to, read through it, make it very mechanical. People, get bored like that. So make sure, right, that you have something, you have something prepared. This is a very big production. It's $1 million production. Make sure you got everything prepared. Regarding, right, what they asked about doing on Zoom, right? Where people who are alone. So people who are alone, they're quarantined. They can't go, or they're scared, or whatever. So the truth is, if they turn it on before the holiday, there's really no problem with that, But some rabbis don't like it, They say it's gonna change the nature of the holiday, whatever it is. Okay, God bless them, whatever. I'm not gonna get into this now. Yeah. But the truth is that if a person who does that, in order because he's alone, whatever, and he's very lonely, he's feeling very lonely, he turns it on before the holiday, just leaves it on like that. Mm-hmm. There's halakhically there's no problem with that, There's no issues. Some rabbis came out and said all kinds of things. I think they're daydreaming, these people. Okay, God bless everybody. So thanks for coming. Stay healthy and happy. Hashem will guard you, Hashem. In the zechut that you came to study Torah, you will be guarded. You know, I'll tell you something, one last statement I want to tell you, which I forgot to say on Tuesday. It says over there in the Vaikra that we studied on Tuesday, the Zota Torah, right? And it tells you over there in the Perek Zayin of Vaikra, 7th Perek, 7th chapter, Torah, Shlamim, Chatat, Todah, all kinds of things, right? All kinds of things. It says Zota Torah. So Chazal say, why does it say Zota Torah? This is Torah. It's talking about sacrifices. So why is it talking about the Torah? Right? So they darshan, they extrapolate from that pasuk, one thing, you know what they say, right? That whoever studies Torah, he doesn't need any sacrifices, doesn't need any atonement. The Torah is the atonement. Whoever studies Torah, he doesn't need any sacrifices, no olah, no chatat, no shtamim. He's exempt from all those things because the Torah guards him from everything, you know? So Talmud Torah Keneged Kulam, what does that mean? That a person is studying Torah, he's guarded from all the bad things, all the things, he's guarded, he's safe from everything. The Torah guards him from everything. Those Baruch Hu should help us with the zechut of the Torah. We should be guarded, and the zechut of the tefillot and the zechut of the tshuva that we're going to do. Amen, amen. Good holiday, health, happiness, wealth, and good tidings. And we should see people who should be healed. No more diseases, no more sicknesses, right? Just Hashem.
Amen.
Everybody should be healthy. The ones who are sick should recover. And we should come back to reality, come back to spiritual life, to the synagogue, to the yeshiva, and get back to our life. This is our life, right? Our life depends on the Torah and mitzvot and tefillot and masim tovim and tzedakah. Amen, amen. Thanks for coming. Chazak u'baruch.
Now,